become what you think about, is the strangest secret. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Henry Ford once said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Now, this was proven several years ago, and this is another old story that I just love, and it was proven in this instance. Now, any of you remember the book or the movie Unbroken about Louis Zamperini? He was a track star, and he goes into World War II and gets in a Japanese concentration camp, and finally gets out later. It's the story of his whole life. It's a wonderful story. Big old long book, Unbroken. The book's better than the movie usually is, right? And so Louis ran in the Berlin Olympics with the Nazis doing this. Hitler is coming into power. And he was a miler. He was a kid from California. And in the Berlin Olympics, Louis ran the mile in 4 minutes and 21 seconds and just barely missed a medal. The miler that year was a little over 4 minutes. That was 1936. By 1954, no one had broken the 4-minute mile. No one. A guy did a 4 minute and 1 second, and it stood for 9 years. It was widely thought and taught that the human body, the physiological condition of the human body, it was impossible for anyone to train enough to go fast enough for the human body to cross a mile in under 4 minutes. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. You become what you think about. And one doctor even prophesied that if someone actually did run a mile in under 4 minutes, that their heart would explode and they would die right there. Until 1954. Roger Bannister, famously, is the first human being, and that's a picture of him, to break the 4-minute mile. 3 minutes and 59 seconds. The record lasted 46 days. 22 people broke the 4-minute mile within the next 6 years. Oh, yes, it's real. We don't all have the same starting point from where we got to go. We don't all have the same starting point. And that's not fair, it just is. But Condoleezza said her parents, what they taught her was that it doesn't matter where you come from, all that matters is where you're going to. So I started a little further back. I'm from Antioch, Tennessee. I'm not from one of those cool families. I'm just a redneck hillbilly, so I started a little further back. Some people started further back than that, and they passed me. Did you know every single demographic, every single race we found in the study had become millionaires? Someone chose to go from where they started to believe, I'm gonna be intentional. If you think you can, if you think you can't, you become what you think about. I'm going to aim at this. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, and I'm gonna go do it. The power of intentionality. I'm gonna be intentional about my life. I'm gonna be intentional about my spiritual walk. I'm gonna be intentional about the dimensions and the compartments and the departments of my life. You know, no one accidentally wins. You don't interview the guy after the Super Bowl and the little reporter runs over to the athlete and goes, how did you just win the World Series, the Super Bowl? They never say, I don't know, I just got off the bus. Now, I've been training since I was 6 years old. It's an intentional act to win. The power of intentionality goes with the power of belief and what we in our Christian walk call faith, what we believe. And we just did 2 years ago at Ramsey the largest study of millionaires ever done in North America. We studied 10,167 millionaires, in-depth, airtight research, because we knew people wouldn't like the results. Because we kind of knew some of the things we were going to find. And we knew that some people wouldn't like it. So we were really careful. We had outside research firm help us with the details and the control groups and the processes. If you know anything about research, it's a very detailed thing to do it properly and not get confirmation bias and these kinds of things in there. Detailed thing. Here's the interesting thing. If you get somebody to say something, if like 60% of the people say something in a group like that, that's called statistically significant, right? Over half of them say this. 97% of the millionaires that we talk to, when we ask them, can you become a millionaire today? And when you first started, did you believe you could become a millionaire? 97% said yes. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. I'm going to be intentional about winning the Super Bowl. I might have a harder start. It might not have been good when I was growing up. People might be mean to me because of reasons they shouldn't be mean to me, but it doesn't matter. I'm still going to go win the Super Bowl. I'm still not going to quit. The Bible teaches cause and effect. We reap what we sow. And so if you plant corn, you will water it, put fertilizer around it if you're a farmer, hoe around it, keep the weeds out, and then you will get corn if God chooses to send the sun and the rain. Now, St. Ambrose said we have to work like it all depends on us and pray like it all depends on God. So the Bible is a constant dance between our faith in God and His provision and our faithfulness getting off your tail end and doing the work. So if you want some corn, you should plant corn. Aggravating Christians pray over mud holes that got no corn in them and can't figure out where the corn is when they have planted no corn. That's aggravating because it makes Christians look stupid. Corn come forth. It's not going to. You're supposed to reap what you sow. Sow the corn will come. Lord, I pray for money. Try saving some. You can do it. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If you think you can, or you think you can't, that's faith or the lack of it. You'll be right either way. Decide. You become what you think about. God, we thank you for your provision. We thank you for your guidance. I do believe God is a God of provision. He's a God of grace. I've walked in so much grace, and among all the dumb things I've done in my life, He's been so unbelievably good to me. It makes me cry every time I think about it. And I'm not in any way dissing that. I'm not in any way taking credit for success. But you have to work. And those that don't work, Paul said they don't eat. And somehow we get these things all twisted up and somehow spiritualize our inactivity or the fact that we're paralyzed and we're overwhelmed and we're scared and we don't know what to do. And instead of plowing through that and busting through that and saying, someone take my hand and help me out of this hole, and your brothers and sisters come alongside you, lift you out, give you a shot at something, the community comes around you and loves you well. Don't forsake the gathering of believers. All these things are Scripture. And they all come together to cause us to be able to cause these things to happen in our lives. Our Christian life and the study of the Bible and the community that we walk in transforms our lives because we learn to plant new and better things into our life. And I have a thing I call the displacement theory. I learned it from my wife. My wife is kind of like Pastor. She's kind of a health nut and like she's in perfect shape. She has zero body fat, which is simultaneously wonderful because she's my wife, but look at me, it's also shaming, okay? So she goes and walks her 6 miles or 28 miles or whatever she does in the morning and works out 4.5 hours or whatever the thing she does. And then she comes in and puts stuff in a blender that humans should not ingest and thinks it's fun. And when she pours it into a glass, it looks like nuclear waste. And it's good for you. Ugh. And then she's got this little nuclear waste mustache and says, do you want some? And I'm like, no. And she finishes drinking that nuclear waste and sets the glass in the sink, turns on the hot water, and the hot water goes into the junk. And the clean water, as it runs, begins to displace the trash. And if you let that glass, and you've done it before, that pan sit in the sink and just let the hot water run on it, it will boil the stuff out. And in a few minutes, the clean has displaced the filth. This is the Christian walk. You put good stuff in, you will have good stuff in. And it will push the trash from the past out. It will push the past out.